The wind howled through the empty streets of Outpost 9, a small human colony built on the edge of an alien world called Vera. Rain fell in silver sheets against the steel walls of every home, and the sky glowed faintly green from the storms that rolled across the planet's twin moons. Inside a quiet cabin at the end of the settlement, Eli Carter sat beside a small fire, trying to fix his daughter's old music box. The gentle tune inside had stopped playing weeks ago, and though his hands were rough and tired, he worked patiently, hoping to hear it again. His 12-year-old daughter, Mira, had already gone to bed upstairs, her small room glowing softly with yellow lights. For years, Eli had lived this quiet life, working as a mechanic by day, repairing machines no one else wanted to touch, and spending his nights alone with Mira. His wife had died years ago, leaving behind a silence that no tool or song could fix. But tonight something strange was about to break that silence. It started with a knock. A single soft knock echoed against the metal door. Eli frowned and looked up. It was past midnight, no one visited at this hour. He waited, thinking it was just the wind. Then came another knock, louder this time, followed by a small voice that trembled. "Please, open the door." Eli stood slowly, the tool slipping from his hand. He grabbed the plasma torch lying nearby just in case and moved to the door. The rain outside hissed and cracked as thunder rolled through the valley. When he opened the door halfway, his heart nearly stopped. Two small figures stood in the rain. Children. But not human. They were twins, maybe 8 or 9 years old, dressed in torn silver robes that clung to their thin bodies. Their skin shimmered faintly, pale with a blue glow underneath. Their large, bright eyes reflected the firelight like polished gems. The boy spoke first, his voice clear but shaking. "Please, sir, help us." Before Eli could respond, the girl added softly, "They're coming for us." "Who's coming?" Eli asked, glancing past them into the darkness. But all he saw was fog and rain. The boy looked up, rain dripping from his silver hair. "Soldiers." "We don't have time." Eli's heart pounded. The air outside suddenly vibrated with a distant hum, a low mechanical sound that every colonist knew too well. Drones. Without thinking, Eli pulled the twins inside and slammed the door shut. He turned off the lights and drew the curtains. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The boy nodded and helped his sister sit near the fireplace. Her lips were blue from the cold and she shivered as Eli wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "What's your name?" Eli asked softly. The boy hesitated. "I'm Keo, and this is my sister, Lyra." Eli crouched beside them, studying their faces. Despite their alien features, the small glowing lines along their temples, the faint hum from their skin, they looked afraid, innocent, and lost. "Where are your parents?" he asked. For a moment the room was silent except for the storm outside. Then Lyra looked up with teary eyes and whispered, "We came to find you." "Father?" Eli froze. His mind went blank. He laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of misunderstanding. I think you've got the wrong person, kid. I'm not your—" Before he could finish, a blue flash of light swept across the window. Eli rushed to the corner and peeked outside. Hovering drones floated down the street, scanning every house with blinding lights. The sound of engines filled the air. The boy's voice came from behind him. "If they find us, they'll take us away. They'll destroy everything." Eli turned to them, his instincts screaming to throw them out, to save himself and his daughter upstairs. But something in Lyra's trembling voice stopped him. He saw the same fear his own daughter had once felt when she lost her mother. He moved quickly, opening the trapdoor to the basement. "Down there, both of you. Don't make a sound." Keo helped Lyra climb down as Eli closed the hatch just in time. A sharp knock hit the front door again, this time not gentle. "Open up. Colony Patrol." Eli wiped the rain from his face and took a deep breath. "Coming," he called out, forcing his voice to stay calm. As he opened the door, 3 armored soldiers stood in the rain, their rifles glowing red. One of them held a scanner that beeped rapidly. "Sir," the soldier said, "we're tracking 2 escaped alien subjects. Dangerous. Have you seen anyone suspicious?" Eli shook his head slowly. "Just me and my daughter. Storm's been bad tonight." The soldier's scanner flashed again, then went silent. He narrowed his eyes at Eli but said nothing. Finally, the soldiers moved on, their footsteps fading into the rain. Eli closed the door and leaned against it, his heart racing. When he lifted the hatch again, the twins stared up at him with wide eyes. Lyra whispered, "Thank you." Eli didn't answer. He just looked at them. the strange glow on their skin, the innocence in their faces, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. A beginning. But deep down, he also knew one thing. Whatever secret these children carried, it was now his problem too. And outside in the storm, the drones circled back for another scan. The night was far from over. The rain had stopped by morning, but the sky over Vera was still covered in silver clouds. Eli Carter hadn't slept all night. His mind kept returning to the strange words the alien twins had said. "We came to find you, Father." He sat in his small kitchen, the old kettle hissing on the stove, while downstairs in the basement, the two children slept wrapped in blankets. Every sound in the house made him tense, the creak of the pipes, the hum of the old generator. His daughter Mira was still asleep upstairs, unaware that two alien kids were hiding right under their feet. Eli ran a hand through his hair, trying to think. He had worked for the military years ago as an engineer, but that was before the war with the alien alliance known as the Valari. He had seen enough destruction to last a lifetime. And now, two alien children had somehow found him on this forgotten colony. When footsteps echoed on the stairs, Eli turned sharply. Keo, the boy, stepped into the room. His silver hair was damp and his eyes glowed faintly blue in the dim light. "Is it safe?" Keo asked quietly. "For now," Eli said, handing him a mug of warm water. "The drones didn't come back." The boy nodded but looked toward the window nervously. "They will return." "They always do." Eli leaned forward. "You need to tell me what's going on." "Who are you? Why do you think I'm your father?" Keo hesitated, then pulled a small metallic device from his pocket, a round crystal glowing with gentle pulses of light. When he pressed its center, a holographic image flickered into the air. Eli gasped. The hologram showed a laboratory, sterile and bright, with humans and aliens working side by side. In the center stood a woman with pale blue skin and kind eyes. She smiled as she placed her hand on a cryo chamber that contained two small figures. The twins. "This is our mother," Keo said softly. Her name was Sael. She was a Valari scientist who worked with humans on something called the Genesis Protocol. Eli's heart began to race. The name was familiar. Too familiar. Genesis Protocol. "I've heard that name." Keo nodded. "You helped create it." Eli stood up abruptly. "That's not possible. I was a mechanic. I fixed ships, not..." But before he could finish, Keo pressed another button. The hologram shifted, showing Eli himself, years younger, wearing a lab uniform. He was standing beside Sael, smiling, holding a glowing vial of blue liquid. The air seemed to vanish from the room. "I don't remember this," Eli whispered. "That's because they took your memories," Keo said quietly. "After the war, when humans betrayed the Valari, they erased everyone who worked on the project." Eli stared at the hologram, lost in confusion and disbelief. "Why? What was Genesis supposed to be?" Keo's voice trembled. "A way to combine human and Valari DNA, to create a bridge between our species. A way to make peace." Lyra appeared in the doorway, her face pale but calm. "We are that bridge," she said softly. "We were born from both worlds. That's why they want us gone." Eli sank into his chair, the truth crashing over him. "You mean, you're half human?" Lyra nodded. "Half human, half Valari. You are our father, Eli Carter. Your DNA was part of the project." He didn't know what to say. His hands trembled as he looked between them, their glowing eyes, their small hands clutching the edge of the table. They looked like children, yet they carried a secret that could destroy everything. "Why did you come here?" Eli finally asked. "Because you're the only one left who can help us," Keo said. "Our mother is gone. The military destroyed the last lab. We escaped, but they want to erase us too." Outside, thunder rolled again. The sound made Lyra flinch. Eli felt something shift inside him, something he thought had died long ago. He had lost his wife, his unit, his purpose. But now 2 lost children had come to his door calling him father. He stood slowly. "All right," he said quietly. "If what you're saying is true, I'll help you. But you have to tell me everything." Lyra's eyes brightened with hope. "Then you believe us?" Eli sighed. "I don't know what I believe anymore. But I'm not letting soldiers take you." The twins exchanged a glance. Then Keo whispered, "They won't stop, Eli. They need the key inside us." "What key?" Eli asked. "The Genesis key," Lyra replied, her voice trembling. "It's inside our DNA. It can restart an entire species. Before Eli could respond, a red light flashed through the window. The hum of engines filled the air again. Drones back already. Keo's voice dropped to a whisper. They found us. Eli grabbed his rifle, his jaw set. Then we run. He didn't know where they would go. He didn't even understand what he was protecting. But deep in his heart, Eli felt the truth. Something far bigger than war, than fear, than memory, had just begun. The dawn over Vera was gray and restless, like a planet holding its breath. Mist rolled across the valley, wrapping the metal roofs of Outpost 9 in silence. But inside Eli Carter's home, silence had become a dangerous thing. He could hear the hum of the drones. Steady, patient, searching. Their red sensors sliced through the fog like knives of light. The government didn't sleep when they wanted something found. Eli stood at the back door, holding a weathered rifle from his old military days. Behind him, the alien twins waited, clutching small silver satchels that glowed faintly. "They're tracking us," said Keo, his young voice tense but calm. "They can smell our energy in the air." Eli frowned. "You mean they can smell?" Keo shook his head. "The scanners. They read the frequency inside our blood." Lyra, the smaller twin, leaned weakly against the wall. Her skin shimmered faintly blue, dimmer than before. "I can't hide it much longer," she whispered. Eli turned toward her. "Then we move now." He looked around the room one last time. The cracked photo of his late wife. The tiny shoes by the door that belonged to his human daughter Mira, still sleeping upstairs, unaware of the storm closing in. He wanted to stay. He wanted to protect her. But the glowing children in front of him were also calling him father, and something deep in his chest refused to ignore that. He switched off the lights, pulled up his jacket hood and whispered, "Follow me." No sound, no light. They slipped out through the back gate just as a patrol skimmer hovered down the street. Eli led them into the Varen forest where the silver trees bent like frozen lightning. The ground pulsed faintly beneath their boots, alive with bioluminescent moss. They walked fast, ducking low under the metallic leaves. Every few seconds the sky above flashed with the red eyes of search drones. Lyra stumbled once and Eli caught her before she fell. Her small hands were cold, too cold. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her breath shallow. "My energy core is failing." Eli looked at Keo. "Can't you fix it?" The boy's face tightened. "She needs a recharge chamber. Human medicine won't help her." "There's one," Eli muttered, scanning the trees. "An old mining base near the cliffs. But it's been locked for years." Keo gave him a determined look. "Then you'll unlock it." Hours passed. The rain had turned the ground slick. Their breaths came out in misty clouds. Somewhere behind them, faint explosions echoed. Drones burning through homes in the colony, searching every shadow. When they reached the edge of the woods, the ruins of the old mining site appeared. Tall steel skeletons covered in vines that glowed faintly green. Lyra's light flickered weaker. Eli lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, and her warmth was fading fast. "Stay with me," he said softly. "We're close." Inside the base, everything was dead. The walls were broken, cables hung like vines, and puddles of blue rainwater reflected their faces. Eli's boots echoed in the silence. He found an old generator room and kicked open the door. The control panels were cracked, but the Volari technology, their alien energy conduits, still pulsed faintly. Keo's eyes brightened. "We can use this," Eli set Lyra down carefully as Keo connected a crystal from his satchel to the wall socket. The room filled with a gentle hum. Blue light spread across the floor like rippling water. Lyra gasped as energy flowed back into her veins. The glow returned to her skin, brighter this time. "It feels warm," she whispered, smiling weakly. For a brief moment, Eli allowed himself to breathe. He leaned against the wall, exhaustion heavy on his face. But the peace didn't last. A low beeping echoed through the room. Keo froze. His eyes widened. No, that can't be." Eli looked at him sharply. "What's wrong?" "The generator isn't just a power source," Keo said. "It's a beacon. It's calling them here." Before Eli could respond, the sound of engines roared outside. The walls trembled. Through the broken window, he saw the first military craft descend through the fog, sleek, black, and armed. Floodlights cut across the ruins, sweeping over the trees and steel beams. Lyra clutched Eli's arm. They found us. Eli grabbed his rifle and checked the power cell. Get behind the wall. Stay low, Keo's voice shook. You can't fight them all. I don't plan to, Eli said, setting his jaw. I just need to slow them down. He opened the door and stepped into the rain, the cold wind slapping his face. The soldiers emerged from the mist, their red visors glowing. One shouted, Surrender the subjects, Carter. They're property of the Genesis Division. Eli raised his weapon. Not anymore, he fired. The blast hit the first soldier, throwing him backward. The others opened fire, red beams cutting through the rain. Eli ducked behind metal debris, returning shot after shot, his reflexes sharp from old wars he thought he'd left behind. Inside, Keo dragged his sister toward a service tunnel. The walls vibrated from explosions outside. Eli, Lyra cried, come! He turned once, saw their terrified faces, and ran toward them as the tunnel door sealed behind him. A blinding explosion shook the entire base. When the smoke cleared, the drones hovered above the ruins, but no sign of the man or the twins remained. Far underground in the dark tunnels of Vera, Eli Carter opened his eyes, coughing through the dust. The twins were beside him, alive. He looked at them, his voice rough but steady. They're not stopping. We'll have to disappear. Keo nodded. Then we'll take you somewhere they can't find us. Where? Eli asked. Keo glanced at his sister, then whispered, to the City of Mirrors, where our mother left the truth. The tunnels stretched for miles beneath the mountains of Vera. Darkness swallowed everything except the soft blue light from the twins' glowing skin. Eli Carter followed them silently, his steps echoing against wet stone. The air smelled of metal and dust, and far above, thunder rumbled like the planet's heartbeat. They had escaped the soldiers, but Eli knew it wasn't victory, only borrowed time. Keo walked ahead, scanning the tunnel walls with a small crystal. The map says this path leads to the surface near the ruins of Valerian City, he said. Eli frowned. Valerian? That's a dead place. No one goes there anymore. Lyra looked back, her eyes glowing softly. It's not dead. It's waiting. The tone in her voice made Eli uneasy. He remembered the name Valerian, whispers from the old war, stories about a city made entirely of glass and mirrors, where light itself could confuse invaders. Many who went there never came back. Still he followed. Hours passed. When they finally reached the end of the tunnel, a cold wind rushed in and a faint silver light filled the passage, and they stepped out onto a wide plateau, and Eli froze. Before them stretched the City of Mirrors. It rose from the valley like a dream, thousands of broken towers made of reflective crystal, catching the weak sunlight and scattering it into a million fragments. Even the ground was covered in glass dust that shimmered like frozen rain. The wind carried a soft ringing sound like whispers trapped in the air. Eli's breath caught in his throat. This place. It's beautiful. Lyra smiled faintly. It's where our mother was born. Keo nodded. And where she died protecting us. They moved carefully through the ruins. Every step reflected 10 different versions of themselves on the cracked surfaces. Eli could barely tell what was real. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. In the city's heart stood a great circular building, half buried, half broken, but still alive with faint blue light. The twins stopped before it. This was her lab, Keo whispered. Eli stepped closer, brushing dust off the door. The alien symbols etched into the walls pulsed softly when his fingers touched them. Why is it reacting to me? He asked. Because it knows you, Lyra said. You helped build it. Eli's chest tightened. I told you I don't remember any of that. Keo pressed a glowing crystal into a slot beside the door. The ground trembled. Slowly, the metal slid open, revealing a dark corridor lined with mirrored panels. They entered. The light from the twins reflected endlessly, filling the hallway with a soft blue glow. As they walked deeper, the mirrors began to shimmer, and suddenly, images appeared. Eli stopped. The mirrors were showing him, younger, smiling, standing beside an alien woman with pale blue skin and eyes that sparkled like starlight. Sale. His heart ached as forgotten emotions rushed back. Laughter, warmth, the sound of her voice saying his name. Eli Carter. A voice echoed faintly through the chamber. He turned. The image of Sael appeared on the far wall. Tall, graceful, her expression calm. She was a hologram triggered by their presence. If you are seeing this, the hologram said softly, Then you have found the truth I left behind. Eli's knees felt weak. Sail, he whispered. The hologram smiled sadly. Our work was never meant for war. The Genesis Protocol was to unite humans and Valari, to create a shared future. But they feared it. They feared us, Kyo stepped forward. Mother, we made it here. We found him. The hologram turned her gaze toward Eli. You were always meant to protect them. They are not weapons. They are hope. The image flickered as if struggling to stay alive. Eli, they carry within them the Genesis core, a seed that can rebuild what both species destroyed. If they fall into the wrong hands, the galaxy will burn again. Eli clenched his fists. Then we'll keep them safe. I promise, Sail's face softened. I knew you would say that. The hologram shimmered one last time, then dissolved into light. The silence that followed was heavy. The twins looked at Eli, their eyes shining. Lyra whispered, You loved her, didn't you? Eli nodded slowly. More than my own life. Outside, thunder echoed again, closer this time. The ground trembled as engines roared in the sky. Kyo looked up sharply. They've found us again. Eli turned toward the doorway. In the distance, the night sky filled with red lights, dozens of dropships descending. Lyra's small hand slipped into his. We can't run forever. Eli's jaw tightened. Then we don't. He looked back once more at the mirror where Sail's image had been. You said they're hope, he muttered. Then let's make sure they live long enough to prove it. As the soldiers landed outside the city of mirrors, the glass towers began to hum with strange energy, reacting to the twins' presence. Eli raised his weapon and stepped forward, reflections of himself stretching infinitely in every direction. For the first time in years, the soldier in him awoke fully. The real battle had just begun. The air in the city of mirrors felt heavier now. Every surface shimmered faintly as if the glass itself could feel the tension. Above the clouds, red lights drifted, soldiers closing in. But beneath the ruins, deep inside Sail's forgotten lab, time seemed to hold its breath. Eli Carter stood before the glowing console that still pulsed with alien life. The holographic image of Sail had vanished, but her voice still echoed in his mind. They are not weapons. They are hope. He stared at the twins. Lyra's glow flickered gently as she rested against the wall. Kyo stood beside her, scanning the lab systems, his young face calm but focused. What is this place exactly? Eli asked. Kyo's hands moved quickly over the alien symbols. This lab was the core of the Genesis Protocol. It holds the entire blueprint of what Mother and you created. Eli frowned. You keep saying I helped create it, but I was just an engineer. Kyo looked up, his blue eyes bright. You were more than that. You gave us the human element. The one thing the Valari couldn't understand. What's that? Kyo smiled faintly. Emotion. Eli said nothing. His mind flashed with memories that weren't fully his. Sail's laughter, her voice explaining a theory about shared empathy, the dream of two species healing through connection. He pressed a hand to his forehead. It's coming back. Pieces of it, Lyra stirred. The Genesis Protocol wasn't meant to make soldiers or hybrids, she said softly. It was meant to make peace. A new species, born from both sides. Eli looked at her, stunned. You mean, you too? Lyra nodded slowly. We are the first generation, but they were afraid of what we could become. Kyo pulled out a glowing cube from a compartment in the floor. Inside it swirled a blue mist, alive and radiant. This is the Genesis core. It holds the genetic map of every human and Valari who contributed to the project. It's what both sides are trying to control. Eli's stomach turned. If the military gets that, they'll erase one side forever, Kyo finished. Lyra's eyes filled with quiet sadness. That's why Mother died. She protected this core. She told us to find you because you're the only one who can activate it. Eli froze. Me? Kyo pointed at the console. It needs the human signature that matches the original data. Yours. Eli stared at the glowing symbols. It all seemed unreal. He had spent years fixing broken machines, thinking his life had no meaning, and now these children, his children, were telling him he carried the key to the future of two civilizations. He took a deep breath. What happens if I activate it? Kyo's voice softened. Then the truth will be released. Every lie they told about the war, every secret buried in both governments, the entire galaxy will know. And if I don't? Eli asked quietly. Lyra looked up. Then we disappear. And the hatred continues forever. Eli's jaw tightened. Then we end it. He placed his hand on the console. The moment his skin touched the surface, the lab came alive. Blue lines of light spread through the floor, racing up the walls like rivers of energy. The mirrors outside began to glow, reflecting the sky in waves of color. Kyo watched the data streams rise into the air. It's working. The core is transmitting. But before they could breathe, alarms blared. The screen flashed red. Lyra's voice trembled. They're jamming the signal. The soldiers are already here. Eli looked up at the roof as explosions thundered outside. Dust fell from the ceiling. Can you finish the upload? Only if someone holds the main relay, Kyo shouted. It needs manual override. Eli didn't hesitate. Tell me what to do. Lyra grabbed his arm. No, you'll die. Eli knelt in front of her, his eyes soft. You're not dying here. Not after everything Sale gave her life for. He turned to Kyo. Start the upload. I'll hold the relay. Kyo nodded with tears in his eyes. Eli ran to the power chamber. Energy crackled like lightning around him as he pulled down the control levers. The entire city began to shake. Outside, ships descended, firing into the ruins. But the mirrored towers reflected their blasts back into the sky, forming a shield of pure light. Inside, Eli's voice echoed through the comms. Finish it, son. The console screamed with light. The core opened fully, and a beam of blue energy shot into the heavens, carrying Sale's message, her code, and the genetic truth of both species. Then the chamber exploded. When the light faded, the city of mirrors was silent again. Only the twins remained kneeling in the ruins, their faces lit by the faint glow of the core. Lyra whispered through tears, He did it. Kyo held her close. He set us free. Above them, the storm clouds began to part, revealing the twin moons of Vera shining together for the first time in centuries, one blue, one gold, merging their light as if the galaxy itself understood. And across the stars, government soldiers and civilians watched as the message spread. Humans and Valari were never enemies. They were one creation split by fear, now reborn through sacrifice. The ruins of the city of mirrors were burning. Shattered towers glowed red from explosions, and the air was thick with smoke and blue sparks. Above the city, dark ships circled like vultures, pouring fire into the broken streets. But at the heart of the chaos, the lab still pulsed faintly, the last light of Genesis. Inside, the floor was cracked and covered in dust. Kyo knelt beside the main console, his small hands trembling as he tried to stabilize the system. The blue energy core flickered, struggling to stay alive. Beside him, Lyra cried silently, staring at the collapsed power chamber where her father had vanished moments earlier. Eli, she whispered. Her voice was soft, breaking like glass. The room echoed with the distant sound of war above. Kyo clenched his fists. He bought us time. We have to finish what he started. Lyra shook her head, tears falling down her glowing cheeks. He's gone, Kyo. Before she could finish, a sound came from the dust-filled chamber. A low, weak cough, Lyra gasped. Kyo, he's alive. They ran toward the rubble, moving pieces of metal and stone with shaking hands. Then from beneath the debris, Eli Carter emerged. Blood on his face, his arm burned but alive. His body shook as he leaned against the wall, barely breathing. Don't stop the upload, he rasped. Lyra threw her arms around him, sobbing. You came back, Eli smiled faintly. Not yet, but soon. Kyo helped him sit beside the flickering console. The upload was interrupted, he said. We need a full surge to send the final code, but the system is too unstable. If we restart it, the power will overload. Eli looked at the broken core, glowing faintly, pulsing like a heart that refused to die. He already knew what that meant. How much power? He asked. More than we have, Kyo replied softly. Eli exhaled slowly, glancing at the blue light reflecting in the children's eyes. Then you'll use mine, Lyra froze. What? He touched the console with his burned hand. Sale said I was part of this, that my DNA started it. Then it ends with me, too. No. Lyra's voice broke. You'll die. Eli smiled faintly. I already died once when I lost everything. But you two, you brought me back. He turned to Kyo. Can you link the core to me? Kyo hesitated. It will drain your life force. Eli looked out at the sky through the shattered glass dome. If it means a future for both worlds, I can live with that. Keo's hands trembled as he connected the glowing cables to Eli's arm. The air hummed as blue light spread through the wires. The system began to stabilize. The entire chamber lit up, brighter and brighter, until the mirrors all around the city reflected the same light. Lyra held Eli's hand tightly. "Please don't leave us." He smiled weakly. "You're not alone anymore. You have each other." She shook her head, tears glowing on her skin. "But you're our father." Eli closed his eyes. "Then listen to your father's last order." "Live." The moment he said it, Keo activated the link. The lab exploded with light. Streams of blue energy poured from Eli's body into the Genesis core. His veins glowed. His heart synchronized with the machine. Around them, the entire city of mirrors began to shimmer as if awakening after a long sleep. Towers that had stood silent for centuries suddenly hummed with power. Outside, soldiers shielded their eyes as a pillar of light rose into the sky, piercing through the storm. "Pull back!" one shouted. "It's overloading." But it was too late. The light expanded outward, not with fire, not with destruction, but with peace. It was warm, soft, alive. Every weapon in the sky powered down. Every ship fell silent. The soldiers dropped their guns, confused and afraid. Across the galaxy, in command centers and government halls, systems flickered to life, showing one message. The Genesis code completed, balance restored. Inside the chamber, the light began to fade. Eli sat slumped against the wall, his skin pale, the glow in his veins fading. Keo and Lyra knelt beside him. "Eli," Keo said quietly, "it's done. The truth is free." Eli smiled faintly. His voice was barely a whisper. "Then, Sale's dream is alive." Lyra held his hand, sobbing softly. "We'll make sure it stays alive." He looked at them both, the reflection of two worlds in their eyes, and breathed his last words. "Tell Mira." Her father kept his promise. Then the light left his eyes, but the peace he gave remained. Outside, the sky of Vera turned calm for the first time in decades. The towers no longer burned, they shimmered, alive with gentle blue light. And in the heart of it all, two small figures stood among the mirrors, the last children of Genesis, holding each other, watching the dawn rise over the planet their father had saved. Above them, the twin moons crossed paths, shining as one. The sacrifice was complete, but the story of what it meant for the galaxy was just beginning. The war was over, though no one knew when it had truly ended. Across the galaxy, ships that once carried destruction now drifted silently among the stars. The broadcast that had screamed fear now hummed with confusion. And in every corner of human and Valari space, one question spread like wildfire. What was the Genesis protocol? The answer arrived not from a government, nor from a general, but from two children. In the ruins of the City of Mirrors, dawn broke softly. The fires had gone cold, and the shattered towers reflected only peace. Amid the silver dust stood Keo and Lyra, the alien twins who had once knocked on a human's door and called him father. They had buried Eli Carter beneath the heart of the city, where blue light from the Genesis core still pulsed faintly beneath the ground, like his heartbeat echoing in eternity. Lyra knelt beside the glowing earth, her small hand brushing the surface. "He's still with us," she whispered. Keo nodded. "Every code in the network carries his name now. Every signal bears his signature." She looked up at him, eyes full of tears. "What do we do now?" Keo turned toward the console still connected to the core. "We finish it. We tell everyone the truth." He placed his hand on the crystal panel and light spread across the ruins. The towers reawakened, sending ripples of blue across the planet's sky. Every satellite, every screen, every transmission network, from human colonies to Valari homeworlds, lit up with one broadcast. Two small figures appeared before billions of viewers, a glowing boy and girl, standing hand in hand. Behind them, the City of Mirrors shone like a second sun. Keo spoke first. His voice was calm, steady, and full of purpose. "My name is Keo Carter. This is my sister Lyra. We are children of two worlds, human and Valari. For years you've been told we were enemies. You were told peace was impossible. That was a lie." Lyra's voice joined his, gentle but filled with fire. "Our mother, Sael, believed both species were one creation, split by fear, not fate. Our father, Eli Carter, gave his life to prove it." Images filled the screen, Sael in her lab working beside humans, Eli holding the twins' hands. The explosion of light that had ended the war. Keo continued. The Genesis Protocol was never a weapon. It was a bridge. A message written in our blood that we are connected by more than history. We are connected by life itself. Lyra's glow brightened, her tears catching the light. We do not ask for forgiveness. We ask for truth. We ask you to look at one another and see what our parents saw, not monsters but reflections. Silence followed. For the first time in generations there was no shouting, no anger, just stillness. On human colonies, soldiers lowered their rifles. On Valari ships, commanders turned off their weapons. News feeds stopped mid-broadcast. People simply listened. Some wept. Some knelt. Some looked up at the sky and whispered names of those they had lost, and then, slowly across 1,000 worlds, applause began. One world after another, a sound that grew until it became a single united roar across the stars. Later, Keo and Lyra stood together atop the tallest mirror tower, the blue sky clear above them for the first time. Lyra looked at the horizon. Do you think they'll really change? Keo smiled faintly. Change takes time. But truth never dies. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small old music box, the one Eli had repaired the night they met him. She wound it once. The gentle tune played through the wind, soft and pure. Lyra smiled through her tears. He promised he'd come back when we heard this song. Keo looked at the light spreading across the valley. Maybe he just did. The two of them stood side by side as the melody floated over the ruins. The sound carried by the wind to every corner of the planet. A lullaby from a father to his children, from one world to another. And as the last note faded, a new dawn broke over Vera. Above the horizon, the twin moons crossed once more, forming a perfect ring of light. In that moment, humans and Valari across the galaxy looked up at the same sky, and for the first time, saw the same future. The twins who once knocked on a lonely man's door gave the galaxy something greater than peace. They gave it truth. And though Eli Carter's body rested beneath the city of mirrors, his legacy now lived in the hearts of billions. The Genesis Protocol was not the end of life. It was the beginning of understanding. As the camera fades from the city to the stars, the last light of Genesis hums softly, carrying one eternal message through the universe. He opened the door and changed the galaxy.